assess whether she should stay or go, to assess what we make of her performance in the House of Commons. Just now, I'm joined by Stephen Valdez-Symonds, refugee and migrant rights director at Amnesty International. Stephen, good evening. Welcome back to the programme. One of the points that the Home Secretary made that I find myself in strong agreement with is surely we can end this pretence that everybody crossing the English Channel is, an innocent that is fleeing persecution of some kind, given that every single day on TikTok we see people advertising the fact they're coming to the UK. They're pictured in London making that symbol from the very dangerous Albanian gang and with bags of money. There are, would you not agree, too many people coming into this country, not just trafficked by criminals, but with criminal intent.
I think that's a gross exaggeration. And if we look at the decision making that has happened at the Home Office over several years now, we see time and time again that when decisions are actually made, and there's a big problem about processing claims, when they're actually made, the great majority of people are found to be entitled to asylum. And so rather than pretending that all the noise is making some false pretense about the genuineness of people's claims, the reality is so much of the noise is doing down people's character in atrocious circumstances when the reality is the Home Secretary must know, because it's her own data that proves it, the people who make claims, on the whole, have good claims to make.
Well, Stephen, one of the reasons why so many of these claims get passed in the end is, of course, because we wouldn't be able to deport people anyway, seeing as we're stuck inside the ECHR. That's certainly my view of it. But look, how do you assess the situation, the position of Suella Braverman as Home Secretary? Do you believe she should stay, carry on with the job, or do you want her to go?
Well, I want her policies to go, and frankly, I'd like her rhetoric to go too, because it's not helping. She says she wants to be straight with the British people. She should be. She should explain that the reason the asylum system has collapsed is because the policies of her predecessor, Priti Patel, which she has continued to pursue, have determined to put on hold thousands and thousands of claims. So we now have enormous backlogs that the system cannot cope with. If she is prepared to sort that out and actually decide claims, then fine. Get on and do that fairly and properly. If not, then no, of course we don't want to see her continuing, because the situation for everybody will just get much worse.
And Stephen, finally, do you see any upper limit to the numbers crossing the Channel in, say, 2023? Do you have a sort of figure in your head, or is it limitless?
I have no figure in my head. I've always been quite frank about that. Countries around the world are obliged to share responsibility for people seeking asylum. The truth of the matter is that this country, because of its geography, sees, compared to many other places in the world, relatively few people. If it put its head to managing, or if government put its head to managing the system, then we could do perfectly well. Of course, we'd have to decide the claims that people make. Some of them would be found to be not good. Very many of them would be found to be good. But unless and until we get on with processing claims, nothing can be done.
We've given asylum in the last 18 months or so to people from Afghanistan, people from Hong Kong, people from Ukraine. We more than do our bit, don't we, when it comes to genuine refugees, and we always have done.
Well, let's be a bit more honest about some of that. The people from Hong Kong are British nationals who have a visa. It's a perfectly good thing, which allows them to come on the basis of their British nationality and their capacity to financially support themselves. Nothing to do with them being at any risk of persecution at all. And many people in Hong Kong who may very well be at risk of persecution, but they're not British nationals or cannot financially support themselves, have no visa at all. We have done, relatively speaking, reasonably well by Ukrainians, although it took a very long time to even get that up and running. We've done a bit less well in respect of Afghans, where we've got a resettlement programme that promises much, but continues to deliver very little. And the great majority of people who ever see asylum in this country, who are compelled to come via our asylum system, they are left to the dangerous journeys we see on our television because nothing is made available for them.